The Great Hall of the Nova Galaxy Alliance was built to make visitors feel small. Massive columns rose 50 meters high. The ceiling showed moving stars and nebulae. At the center stood a raised platform where 7 tall aliens looked down on the 2 humans who had come asking for help. Captain Jack Reed of the United Earth Defense Fleet stood straight, his blue uniform sharp despite the 30-hour journey to reach this place. Next to him, Commander Anna Wright kept her eyes forward, though her jaw clenched tightly. "You understand what you ask of us." The voice belonged to Admiral Kor, leader of the Council. His skin was almost see-through, with blue veins pulsing beneath. His eyes glowed yellow in his long face. "The swarm has never reached Alliance space. This is a human problem." Jack stepped forward. "With respect, Admiral, it won't stay a human problem for long. The swarm has already eaten 3 of our outer worlds. We lost 10,000 people on New Boston alone. Our fleet fought them off Earth, but barely. Next time, you will lose," said a female counselor with greenish skin. "Your species has been in space for, 80 years? The Alliance has kept peace for 2,000. Which is why we've come to you," Anna said. Her voice was tight. Jack could feel her anger. "Earth joined the Alliance in good faith. We followed your trade rules. We've stayed in our sector. Now we need help." The council members looked at each other, sharing thoughts without words. Several smiled slightly, as if at a joke only they understood. Admiral Kor raised his long-fingered hand. "The Alliance will provide aid." Jack felt a rush of relief. "Thank you, Admiral. In the form of a ship," Kor continued, "a battlecruiser from our 3rd Fleet. It will be transferred to Earth's command immediately." The council members were definitely smiling now. Jack didn't understand why until one of them leaned forward and whispered something to Kor, who nodded. "The vessel is called the Defiant," Kor said. "It has history." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a massive ship, easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. Its hull was a dull gray, with elegant curves and lines that reminded Jack of ancient sailing ships. But something was wrong. As the image rotated, he could see huge holes in the hull. Entire sections were missing. The engines looked dark and dead. "This is a joke," Anna whispered, too low for the council to hear. "It's garbage." Jack looked back at Admiral Kor, whose yellow eyes watched him carefully. "This vessel," Kor said, "was once the pride of our fleet. It is somewhat outdated now, due for recycling, but its basic systems remain sound." Another council member added, "Your people have a saying, do they not? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth." Several of them laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. Jack understood now. This was a test, or maybe just a way to make humans go away. Give them a piece of junk that would never fly again, watch them fail, and then say they had tried to help. He should refuse. He should tell them what they could do with their broken ship. Instead, he smiled. "The United Earth Defense Fleet gratefully accepts the Defiant," he said, bowing slightly. "We're honored by your generosity." The council members stopped laughing. This wasn't the reaction they expected. "Captain Reed," Admiral Kor said, "I'm not sure you understand the condition of this vessel. It would take a fully staffed Alliance shipyard at least 2 years to make it space-worthy again." "Then we'll have to work fast," Jack said. "The swarm won't wait 2 years. You don't have the technology or knowledge to repair a ship of this class," another counselor said. Jack shrugged. "We'll learn." Admiral Kor stared at him for a long moment. "Very well. The Defiant is currently in orbit around our 5th moon. It will be moved to our main space dock, where you may begin your repairs." He looked at his fellow council members. "I offer Alliance dock space and resources as a show of our commitment to our human allies." Several counselors looked unhappy about this, but none objected openly. "We accept, with thanks," Jack said. He bowed again. "We'll try not to take up the space for too long." As they left the Great Hall, Anna finally let out the breath she'd been holding. "They think we're fools," she hissed. "That ship is space junk. They're laughing at us, Jack." "Let them laugh," he said. "While they're laughing, we'll be working." "Working on what? Did you see that wreck? Half the hull is gone." Jack stopped and turned to her. "Anna, what's Earth's greatest strength? The thing that got us to the stars while we were still fighting among ourselves." She thought for a moment. "Adaptability, I guess. Making things work even when they shouldn't." "Exactly. These alliance races, they've had peace for thousands of years. Everything they build is perfect, designed for exactly one purpose. They don't know how to improvise. And we do. Remember what my father used to say about his farm? Baling wire and duct tape keep the world running." Jack smiled. "The Defiant maybe jumped to them, but to us, it's parts. And we're very good at putting parts together in new ways." Anna didn't look convinced. "We need a warship, not a science project." "We'll have a warship, just not the kind the Alliance expects." Jack started walking again. "Send a message to Earth. I want our best engineers here within the week, and I want Mike Torres leading them." "Torres? He's crazy. Exactly why we need him." "And find Emma Wilson from the AI lab." Jack's eyes gleamed. "Also tell Earth to send everything we can spare. Tools, parts, even civilian tech. Anything that isn't nailed down." As they reached their small shuttle, Jack looked up at the massive Alliance station hanging in space above them. Thousands of ships moved around it like bugs around a hive, all of them perfect, elegant, built by races who had forgotten how to struggle. "They think they've won," he said quietly. "They think they've sent us away with trash to keep us busy while the swarm eats us alive." Anna followed his gaze. And instead, Jack smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "We're going to take their trash and turn it into the most dangerous ship in the Nova Galaxy. And then we're going to save their smug alien asses whether they like it or not." Anna stared at him for a long moment. Then she started to laugh. "Fine. If we're going to fail, let's fail spectacularly." "We're not going to fail," Jack said, stepping into the shuttle. "We're just going to redefine success." 3 days later, the Defiant was moved to the Alliance's main dock. As their shuttle approached it for the first time, even Jack felt his confidence waver. The ship was enormous, yes, but it was also a wreck. The once smooth hull was pitted and torn. Entire decks were exposed to space. The engines were dark, their housing cracked and broken. "It looks worse up close," Anna said. Jack nodded. "It does. Still think we can fix it." Jack watched as they flew past a massive hole in the Defiant's side. Through it, he could see twisted metal and broken systems, parts that would never work again, or parts that could be used differently. "We're not going to fix it," he said. "We're going to transform it." 2 years, minimum, said the Alliance engineer, not bothering to hide his smirk. "And that's with a full crew and proper parts." Mike Torres, chief engineer of the Earth Defense Fleet, walked around the massive engine room of the Defiant. His boots echoed on the metal floor. Cables hung from the ceiling. Half the control panels were dark. "We'll do it in 2 months," he said. The Alliance engineer laughed. "Impossible. Just replacing the fuel lines would take 3 months." Mike knelt to examine a cracked pipe the size of his body. "Then we won't replace them. You can't run a ship without fuel lines. Watch us." Mike stood up and turned to the team of 30 human engineers behind him. "Okay, people, you heard the man. We've got an impossible job and not enough time. Sounds like a normal Tuesday." A few of them laughed. "Split into teams. I want every system checked. Don't worry about fixing things the right way. Just find a way to make them work." As the engineers spread out, the Alliance observer shook his head. "You humans are wasting your time." Mike smiled. "Time's the one thing we've never wasted." 2 weeks later, the Defiant was swarming with humans. They worked in shifts around the clock. The Alliance dock had never seen such activity. Alien workers stopped to watch the strange creatures who never seemed to sleep. Captain Jack stood on what was left of the bridge, watching as his crew turned chaos into order. New control panels were being installed. Some were made from Alliance parts. Others were clearly human technology, adapted to work with alien systems. "It's not pretty," Anna said, walking up beside him. "But it's starting to look like a real ship." "How's the hull coming?" Jack asked. "We can't fix all the holes. There's too many, and we don't have the materials." But Mike's team came up with something interesting. She led him to a viewport that looked out over the ship's main body. Workers in spacesuits moved across the hull, attaching what looked like metal patches over the largest holes. "Those are armor plates from our own ships," Anna explained. "We've been stripping the shuttles. They don't match the Defiant's hull, but they're strong. And Mike found a way to attach them using some kind of alien adhesive that's stronger than our best welds." Jack nodded. "What about weapons?" "That's where we got lucky. The weapon systems are mostly intact. They're old, but powerful. The problem is the targeting computers. They're completely fried, and they use an operating system none of our people can make sense of. So we can shoot but can't aim." Anna smiled. "Not exactly. Emma Wilson is working on that." Dr. Emma Wilson had taken over a small room near the ship's core. The walls were covered in screens showing lines of code. Some was familiar Earth programming. The rest was alien text that seemed to shift and change as it ran. "The main computer is actually incredible," she told Jack when he came to check on her progress. "It's far more advanced than the Alliance let on. I think they deliberately downgraded the software before giving us the ship." Jack watched as she typed quickly on a keyboard attached to a mix of human and alien technology. "Can you fix it?" "Better. I can upgrade it." Emma pushed a strand of dark hair from her face. "Their systems are elegant but rigid. They're designed to do exactly one thing perfectly. Our eye is more flexible." "You're merging them?" Jack asked, surprised. "I'm trying. The Alliance computer is fighting me. But I think I've found a backdoor." She pointed to a screen where alien code scrolled rapidly. "There's a learning algorithm buried deep in the system. It's old, maybe from when the ship was first built. The Alliance probably forgot it was there. And you can use it." Emma smiled. It was the same smile Jack had seen on Mike's face, on Anna's, on every human working on this impossible task. It was the smile of someone who had been told no and decided to find a yes anyway. "I'm not just using it, Captain. I'm setting it free." At night, when most workers rested, Jack often walked the halls of the Defiant alone. The ship was changing day by day. It didn't look like an Alliance vessel anymore. It didn't look like an Earth ship either. It was becoming something new. In the mess hall, he found Mike Torres working on what looked like a pile of scrap metal spread across 3 tables. "Don't you ever sleep?" Jack asked. Mike looked up, dark circles under his eyes. "Sleep is for people who don't have impossible deadlines." He held up a strange device made of both alien and human parts. "Do you know what this is?" Jack shook his head. "Neither do the Alliance engineers. I took apart their waste recycling system and combined it with parts from our shuttle's air filtration." Mike grinned. "It's now a backup life support system that uses half the power of the original." "Is that safe?" "Probably." Mike laughed at Jack's expression. "Relax, Captain. I've tested it. It works better than their system, just not in a way they understand. That's our advantage." Jack looked around the room. "Our advantage is that we're crazy. Our advantage is that we don't care how things are supposed to work. We only care that they do work." 1 month into the project, Admiral Core made a surprise visit to the dock. He was accompanied by 3 Alliance military officers and 2 engineers. "I'm told you're making progress," he said, his yellow eyes scanning the busy dock. "We'll be ready for trials next month," Jack said. Admiral Core blinked slowly. "Impossible. Would you like a tour?" The tour was not going well. The Alliance visitors stared in horror at what humans had done to their once beautiful ship. "You've turned the officers' lounge into a fabrication shop," one officer said, aghast. "We need parts more than we need comfortable chairs," Anna replied. The engine room was worse. Mike had rebuilt the entire propulsion system. The elegant Alliance design was gone, replaced by a hybrid that used parts from 3 different technologies. "This will never work," an Alliance engineer said, pointing to where a human coolant system had been spliced into alien power conduits. "The materials aren't compatible." Mike tapped a nearby panel. The engines hummed to life, vibrating beneath their feet. "Seems compatible enough to me." The bridge was the final shock. The sleek Alliance command center was now a mix of human and alien technology. Some screens showed Earth-style displays. Others had Alliance text. Emma's workstation had both. "What have you done to the computer core?" the second engineer asked, staring at a diagnostic screen. "Improved it," Emma said simply. Admiral Core turned to Jack. "This ship is an abomination." Jack met his gaze. "This ship will be ready to fight in 3 weeks. Even if it can fly, which I doubt, the swarm will tear it apart." "We'll see." As they left, Anna whispered to Jack, "He's right about one thing. This ship is ugly." Jack watched the Alliance officials boarding their shuttle. Beauty doesn't win battles. The day before their scheduled launch, Jack found Emma alone on the bridge. The main screen showed a simulation of the ship's systems, all glowing green. "Are we ready?" he asked. Emma nodded. "The AI integration is complete. It's not what they designed it to be. Not what we would have designed either. It's something new. Will it work?" "It already is working." Emma looked at the captain. "It's learning about us, Jack. About humans. About how we think." "Is that safe?" Emma smiled. "Probably no safer than Mike's recycled life support, but it will help us fight." Jack looked around the bridge of the Defiant. 2 months ago, it had been a piece of floating junk. Now it was alive again. Not pretty, not elegant, but alive. "Then we fight," he said. Launch day arrived with little fanfare. The Alliance had prepared what they called a ceremonial inspection of the Defiant before its departure. Captain Jack knew what it really was, one last chance to laugh at the humans before they crawled back to Earth in their patched-together ship. Admiral Core led a group of 10 officials onto the bridge. They wore formal uniforms with bright medals that caught the light. Behind them came a group of media representatives from various Alliance worlds. This was to be a show. "Captain Reed," Admiral Core said, his voice carrying for the benefit of the cameras, "the Alliance High Council wishes to formally transfer command of the battlecruiser Defiant to Earth's Defense Force. We hope this gesture of friendship will strengthen the bonds between our peoples." Jack nodded, keeping his face neutral. "The people of Earth thank you, Admiral. We're honored by your generosity." A female reporter stepped forward. "Admiral, there are rumors this vessel was scheduled for recycling. Is Earth receiving second-hand technology?" Admiral Core smiled smoothly. "The Defiant is an older model, yes, but still a formidable ship. We thought it better suited for Earth's defense needs than our more advanced vessels." "And do you believe this ship can stand against the swarm?" she asked, turning to Jack. Before he could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed on every screen. A voice came over the station's comm system. "Alert. Unidentified vessel detected at the edge of the system. Profile matches swarm scout ship. This is not a drill. All military personnel report to stations." The Alliance officials looked at each other in shock. The swarm had never come this far into Alliance territory. Admiral Core turned to his aide. "Contact the defense fleet." The aide spoke into his communicator, then looked up with a worried expression. "The main fleet is patrolling the outer systems. We have only 3 ships in range, and they're at least 30 minutes from intercept." The reporter's camera was still rolling, capturing the moment. "Admiral, what is the Alliance's response to this incursion?" Admiral Cor's yellow eyes narrowed. For the first time, Jack saw real concern there. "The Defiant is ready for action," Jack said calmly. "We can intercept the scout ship." The room went silent. Then Admiral Cor laughed. "This vessel, it hasn't even completed proper testing. It would be suicide." "It's tested enough," Jack said. "My crew is ready. And we're closer than your patrol ships." The reporter turned her camera toward Jack. "Captain, are you offering to defend Alliance space with an untested ship?" "I'm offering to do the job we came here for," Jack said. "Fighting the swarm." Admiral Cor stared at him for a long moment. Jack knew what he was thinking. If he refused Jack's help and the swarm ship escaped, it would be a political disaster. If he accepted and the Defiant was destroyed, he could blame the humans for their own failure. "Very well," the Admiral said finally. "The Defiant has permission to intercept, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary." Jack nodded to Anna. "Commander Wright, prepare for immediate launch." The Alliance officials were quickly escorted off the ship. As he left, Admiral Cor paused at the airlock. "Your courage is admirable, Captain, but courage alone won't save you from the swarm." "It's not courage, Admiral," Jack replied. "It's faith in my ship and my crew." When the airlock closed, Anna turned to Jack. "Was that wise? We're about to take an untested ship into battle." Jack smiled. "Would you rather sit here and wait for them to reach the station?" Anna's answer was to walk to her station. "All departments, prepare for launch." The dock clamps released with a heavy thud. The Defiant drifted free for the first time in years. "Engines at 1/4, Jack ordered. Mike's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Engines responding, Captain. We're still getting some power fluctuations, but nothing critical." The Defiant moved away from the station, slowly at first, then faster as the engines warmed up. Through the viewport, Jack could see Alliance workers staring as the patched-together vessel left the dock. "Set course to intercept the swarm scout," Jack said. "Maximum speed." Emma looked up from her console. "The Alliance is broadcasting on all channels, warning the swarm ship to leave Alliance space or face destruction." "They're wasting their breath," Anna said. "The swarm doesn't negotiate." "They're about to learn that," Jack agreed. "Time to intercept." 15 minutes at current speed," Emma replied. Jack nodded. "All hands to battle stations." The Defiant raced through space, moving faster than Alliance engineers would have believed possible. Mike had pushed the rebuilt engines beyond their original specs. The ship vibrated with power. On the bridge, Emma monitored the sensor readings. "Swarm ship is changing course. It's moving to intercept us." Jack smiled grimly. "They think we're easy prey." "Aren't we?" Anna asked quietly. "They've never fought humans before," Jack said. "Let's show them why that was a mistake." The swarm ship appeared on the main screen. It was smaller than the Defiant but sleek and deadly, with no wasted space. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. "They're scanning us," Emma reported, "trying to assess our capabilities." "Let them look," Jack said. "Weapons status." "Weapons hot, Captain," the tactical officer reported. "Main cannons charge. Missile tubes loaded." The swarm ship suddenly accelerated, closing the distance rapidly. "They're powering weapons," Emma warned. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Pattern Baker 3." The Defiant lurched sideways, its engines firing in ways the Alliance had never intended. The ship's hybrid navigation system, combining alien precision with human unpredictability, executed a series of moves that should have torn the hull apart. The swarm ship fired, energy beams cutting through the space where the Defiant had been a moment before. "Return fire," Jack ordered. "All main batteries." The Defiant's weapons came alive. Ancient Alliance cannons, repurposed and rewired by human hands, fired in sequence. The first shots missed as the swarm ship executed its own evasive maneuvers. "They're fast," Anna observed. "We're faster," Jack said. Emma, is the targeting system online? Emma's fingers flew over her console. Online and adapting. The AI is tracking their movement patterns. The swarm ship came around for another pass, firing a barrage that clipped the Defiance port side. The ship shuddered. Damage report, Jack called. Minor hull breach on Deck 5, came the reply. Emergency systems responding. No casualties. Mike, I need more power to the weapons, Jack said into the comm. You've got it, Captain, but I can't promise the conduits will hold. The Defiant turned faster than a ship its size should be able to, bringing its main guns to bear just as the swarm ship began another attack run. Fire, Jack ordered. This time, the shots connected. The Defiant's cannons tore into the swarm ship's hull, leaving glowing wounds, but the enemy vessel didn't retreat. Instead, it accelerated directly toward them. They're going to ram us, Anna shouted. Roll ship, present the armored sections, Jack ordered, and fire all remaining weapons. The Defiant rolled, its patchwork hull turning to offer the strongest sections to the oncoming enemy. At the same time, every operational weapon fired. Beams of energy lashed out. Missiles streaked across the void. The swarm ship couldn't evade them all. Explosions bloomed across its hull. One of its engines flickered and died. Still, it came on, driven by the hive mind's relentless will. Brace for impact, Jack called. The ships were seconds from collision when the combined damage to the swarm vessel finally took its toll. Its remaining engine exploded in a flash of blue fire. The ship broke apart, pieces tumbling past the Defiant close enough to rattle the hull. Silence fell on the bridge. Then cheers erupted from every station. Confirm destruction, Jack ordered, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. Enemy ship destroyed, Captain, Emma reported. No survivors detected. Jack nodded. Set course back to the station. Standard speed. As the Defiant turned, Anna moved to stand beside Jack. We actually did it. Did you doubt we would? She smiled. Only every minute of every day for the past 2 months. Jack looked around the bridge, at the mix of human and alien technology that had somehow come together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. The Alliance gave us scrap, he said quietly. We gave them a warship. Back at the station, a crowd had gathered to watch the Defiant's return. The media was there in force, cameras trained on the ship as it docked. Admiral Kor waited at the airlock, his face unreadable. Behind him stood the council members who had laughed at the humans 2 months ago. They weren't laughing now. Impossible. The Alliance military inspector circled the weapons console on the Defiance bridge. These cannons should not have that kind of output. Mike Torres leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We modified the power relays. Using what? The inspector demanded. Parts from our own systems, mostly. A few things we traded for in the station market. The inspection had been going on for 3 days. After the Defiant's victory over the Swarm Scout, Alliance officials had swarmed the ship, convinced the humans must have stolen classified technology. What they found only confused them more. On the engineering deck, another inspector was questioning Emma about the ship's computer system. You integrated your eye with Alliance software. That violates at least 6 security protocols. Emma didn't look up from her screen. We needed a targeting system that could track swarm movements. Your original system was too slow. This is highly irregular, the inspector muttered, making notes on his tablet. In the conference room, Captain Jack sat across from Admiral Kor and Commander Tall, the captain of the Alliance flagship Invincible. Your ship performed adequately, Tall said. He was tall, even for his species, with dark blue skin and sharp features. But one small scout is not the same as facing the swarm's main fleet, which is why we need to gather intelligence on their fleet movements, Jack said. The scouts' presence this deep in Alliance space suggests they're getting bolder. Admiral Kor's yellow eyes narrowed. Are you proposing another mission? I'm proposing the joint operation, Jack said. The Defiant can penetrate swarm territory, gather intelligence on their main fleet, and return with data that could help protect both Earth and the Alliance. Penetrate swarm territory. Tal laughed. With that patchwork vessel, the moment they detect you, you'll be surrounded and destroyed. They won't detect us, Jack said. Admiral Core leaned forward. Explain. Jack tapped a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing the Defiant's exterior. We've developed a stealth system. The swarm uses biological sensors that detect energy emissions. We've found a way to mask ours. How? Tal demanded. We repurposed the material you use for waste containment. It absorbs energy rather than reflecting it. Admiral Core and Commander Tal exchanged glances. Cargo shielding, Core said. You turned cargo shielding into a stealth system. Jack nodded. Combined with modified power settings, it should let us observe the swarm fleet without being detected. Should. Tal repeated skeptically. Nothing is certain in war, Commander, Jack said. But we're willing to take the risk. Core was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, the Council will not approve sending the Defiant alone. If your stealth technology works, it could be valuable to the Alliance. You want to send one of your ships with us, Jack guessed. The Invincible will accompany you, Core said. Commander Tal will observe and report on your methods. Jack looked at Tal, whose expression made it clear he was not happy with this assignment. We leave tomorrow, Jack said. 800 hours. The Defiant and the Invincible left Alliance space the next morning. The contrast between the two ships couldn't have been more stark. The Invincible was sleek and beautiful, its hull gleaming silver in the starlight. The Defiant was a patchwork of materials, functional but far from pretty. They're hailing us, Emma reported as they cleared the last Alliance outpost. On screen, Jack ordered. Commander Tal's face appeared. Captain Reed, we are entering potentially hostile territory. The Invincible will take the lead. Your ship will follow at a distance of no less than 10,000 kilometers. Jack nodded. Understood, Commander. But once we reach swarm space, we'll need to activate our stealth systems. At that point, we should take the lead. Tal's expression darkened. We will discuss that when the time comes. Tal out. The screen went blank. He's not happy about this, Anna observed from her station. He'll be even less happy when we reach swarm space, Jack said. Emma, is the stealth system ready? As ready as it can be without a full test, she replied. Mike had to jury-rig the power distribution. We'll need to run at 30% to maintain the energy mask. Let's hope it's enough. For 3 days, they traveled toward swarm territory. The Invincible led the way, its powerful sensors scanning for any sign of enemy ships. The Defiant followed, its crew making constant adjustments to their improvised systems. On the 4th day, they reached the edge of what Alliance maps marked as contested space. Beyond this point, swarm encounters were common. Hail the Invincible, Jack ordered. Commander Tal answered immediately. We are approaching the border, Captain Reed. Is your stealth system operational? Ready to activate on your command, Jack replied. But as discussed, the Defiant should take point once we cross the border. Tal's face showed his displeasure, but he nodded. Proceed, but maintain communication at all times. The Defiant moved ahead of the Alliance ship, its engines running at the reduced power Emma had specified. Jack ordered the stealth system activated. Power signatures masked, Emma reported. Heat emissions contained. We're as invisible as we're going to get. They crossed into swarm territory without incident. For hours, they moved deeper into enemy space, sensors sweeping for any sign of swarm activity. Contact, Emma said suddenly. Multiple signatures ahead. Large formation. Jack moved to her station. Put it on the main screen. The screen showed a massive gathering of swarm ships. Dozens, then hundreds became visible as their sensors adjusted. That's not a patrol, Anna said quietly. That's an invasion force. Jack opened a channel to the Invincible. "Commander Tal, are you seeing this?" "We are," Tal replied, his voice tight. "Our analysts are counting over 300 vessels. This is unprecedented." "We need to get closer," Jack said. "Get a better scan of their formation and heading." "Negative," Tal replied immediately. "The risk is too great. We have the intelligence we came for. We must return to Alliance space and report." Jack looked at the screen. Something about the swarm fleet's position bothered him. "Emma, what's their heading?" She checked her readings. "Based on their current course, they're headed for the Alliance core worlds, Captain." Jack felt a chill. Not the human colonies. The core worlds. "Impossible," Tal's voice came through the comm. "The swarm has never ventured that deep into Alliance space. Until now," Jack said. "Commander, we need more data. Their exact course, their speed, their estimated time of arrival. With your permission, the Defiant will move closer." There was silence from the Invincible. Then Tal said, "Very well. But extreme caution, Captain. If they detect either of our ships, we won't survive long enough to deliver any warning." The Defiant edged closer to the swarm fleet, its stealth systems working at maximum capacity. They were close enough now to see individual ships, each black and sleek like the scout they had destroyed. "They're definitely headed for the core worlds," Emma confirmed after several minutes of scanning. "At their current speed, they'll reach the outer defenses in less than 2 weeks." Jack was about to order them to pull back when alarms blared across the bridge. "We're being scanned," Emma shouted. "They've detected us." "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Full power to engines." The Defiant lurched as it broke from its observation position. Behind them, several swarm ships detached from the main fleet and began pursuit. "The Invincible," Anna said. "They'll detect them too." Jack opened the comm channel. "Commander Tal, we've been spotted. Multiple pursuers. Get your ship out of here now." Instead of fleeing, the Invincible moved forward, placing itself between the Defiant and the pursuing swarm ships. "Captain Reed," Tal's voice was calm despite the danger. "Your vessel carries vital intelligence. The Alliance needs to know about this invasion force. We will cover your retreat." "That's suicide," Jack protested. "Perhaps," Tal agreed, "but necessary. Go, Captain. Warn the Alliance." The Invincible opened fire on the lead swarm ships, its powerful weapons tearing through the first wave. But more came, swarming around the Alliance vessel like insects. Jack watched in horror as the sleek silver ship was surrounded. Its shields flared blue as they absorbed hit after hit. "We can't leave them," Anna said. Jack made his decision. All power to engines and weapons. "We're going back." The Defiant turned, its makeshift engines pushing to speeds its builders never imagined. It plunged toward the battle, weapons charging. "Target the swarm ships closest to the Invincible's engines," Jack ordered. "Fire everything we've got." The Defiant unleashed a barrage that caught the swarm ships by surprise. 3 exploded immediately. Others broke off their attack to face this new threat. "The Invincible is heavily damaged," Emma reported. "Life support failing. Hull breaches on multiple decks." "Get me a channel to Tal," Jack ordered. Commander Tal's face appeared on screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Invincible was in chaos. Fires burned at several stations. Officers worked frantically to maintain control of their dying ship. "What are you doing, Reed?" Tal demanded. "Saving your stubborn alien hide," Jack replied. "Prepare for emergency evacuation. We'll dock with your port airlock." "There's no time." "Make time," Jack said. "That's an order, Commander." For once, Tal didn't argue. The Defiant limped back to Alliance space with nearly double its normal crew. The rescue operation had been what Commander Tal later described as controlled insanity. The human ship had executed maneuvers that should have torn it apart, dancing between swarm attackers to reach the dying Invincible. They had saved 83 of the Alliance flagship's crew. Commander Tal had been the last to leave his ship, staying until the final moment when Jack himself had crossed the emergency docking tube to drag him to safety. The Invincible had exploded moments later, taking 4 swarm ships with it. Now on the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Tal stood beside Captain Jack as they approached Alliance Station 1. His blue skin was paler than usual, his uniform torn and stained. "The Alliance owes you a debt," Tal said quietly. "My crew owes you their lives." Jack shook his head. "We did what anyone would do." "No," Tal said. "We would not have done the same. The Alliance protocol is clear. The mission comes before the crew." "That's not how humans work," Jack replied. "We're stubborn that way." The station grew larger in the view screen. Dozens of Alliance warships surrounded it, more than Jack had ever seen in one place. "They're preparing for war," Tal observed. "Admiral Kor acted quickly on your warning transmission." "Not quickly enough," Tal said grimly. "The swarm will reach our outer defenses in 10 days. We have never faced a force this large." The Defiant docked amid unusual fanfare. A full honor guard waited at the airlock. Admiral Kor stood at its head. As Jack, Anna, and Tal stepped through, the Alliance soldiers snapped to attention. Admiral Kor stepped forward and, to Jack's surprise, bowed deeply. "Captain Reed," he said formally. "The Alliance Council extends its gratitude for the safe return of Commander Tal and his crew. Your bravery will be recorded in our histories." Jack returned the bow. "Thank you, Admiral. But we bring grave news." "Yes," Kor nodded. "The Council is assembled and waiting for your report." The Council chamber was filled to capacity. All 7 Council members were present, along with military leaders from every Alliance world. The mood was tense. Jack stood before them, flanked by Anna and Commander Tal. Behind them, on a large screen, Emma displayed the sensor data they had gathered. "The swarm fleet numbers over 300 ships," Jack explained. "Their heading and speed suggest they plan to attack the core worlds directly, bypassing the outer colonies." "Why?" asked a counselor with green skin. "They have always expanded gradually, consuming world after world." "We believe they've recognized the Alliance as the primary threat," Jack said. "They're adapting their strategy." "Can our defenses hold?" another counselor asked, turning to Admiral Kor. Kor looked troubled. "Our fleet is formidable, but our ships are designed for specific roles. They lack versatility against the swarm's numbers and adaptability." He trailed off. "We can win," Jack said firmly. Everyone turned to look at him, but not with conventional tactics. "Explain," Admiral Kor said. Jack stepped forward. "The swarm fights like a single organism. Each ship is just a cell in a larger body. They communicate instantly and adapt to any tactic they've seen before. Alliance ships are powerful but predictable." "And what do you suggest?" asked the female counselor who had mocked Jack at their first meeting. Her tone was different now, respectful, even urgent. "Make them unpredictable," Jack said. "The Defiant survived because it doesn't fight like an Alliance ship. It doesn't even look like one. The swarm couldn't anticipate our movements or tactics." "You want us to copy your ship?" a military officer asked, sounding horrified. "Not copy," Jack said. "Adapt. Use your technology in ways it wasn't designed for. Break the rules. Fight messy." The chamber erupted in voices, some outraged, some thoughtful, all concerned. Admiral Kor raised his hand for silence. "What Commander Tal witnessed, is it true? Did the Defiant truly hold its own against multiple swarm ships?" Tal stepped forward. "It did more than hold its own, Admiral. Without the Defiant's unconventional modifications and Captain Reed's tactics, I and my crew would be dead. The Defiant should have been destroyed a dozen times over. Instead, it survived. We all did." A hush fell over the room. "We have 7 days before the swarm reaches our main defensive line," Admiral Kor said. "Can your engineers teach ours how to implement these modifications in that time?" Jack looked at Anna, who nodded. "We can try. We'll need full access to your shipyards and cooperation from your engineers." "You'll have it," Kor said. The next week was a blur of activity. Alliance shipyards became workshops where the elegant designs of their vessels were transformed. Sleek hulls were reinforced with additional armor plates. Weapon systems were reconfigured based on the Defiant's successful modifications. Navigation computers were reprogrammed with elements of human unpredictability. Many Alliance engineers resisted at first. Their military doctrine had remained unchanged for centuries. But Commander Tal, now the strongest advocate for the human methods, convinced many. Those who still doubted were won over when the Defiant, repaired and improved, outperformed the Alliance's best ships in battle simulations. By the time the swarm arrived, 50 Alliance ships had been modified. It wasn't their entire fleet, but it would have to be enough. The battle began at the edge of the Chorus system, 3 light years from the nearest inhabited world. The Alliance fleet formed a defensive line, with the modified ships in the front and the conventional vessels providing support from behind. On the bridge of the Defiant, now the fleet's advanced scout, Jack received the first sensor readings of the approaching enemy. "They've split into attack formations," Emma reported. Exactly as predicted. Jack opened a channel to Admiral Kor's command ship. "They're following their standard pattern. They haven't adapted to our new tactics yet." "Then we strike first," Kor replied. "All ships, execute battle plan read." The modified Alliance ships broke formation, moving in patterns no swarm ship had ever encountered. Some accelerated to speeds that strained their hulls. Others cut power completely, drifting like dead ships until the swarm passed, then attacking from behind. The Defiant led the charge, its hybrid weapons firing in sequences that confused the swarm's collective intelligence. For the first time, the hive mind faced an enemy it couldn't predict. The battle raged for hours. Ships were lost on both sides. But slowly, the Alliance gained ground. Jack's voice was hoarse from giving orders when Emma's excited cry cut through the noise of battle. "They're breaking formation. The swarm is retreating." The bridge fell silent. Then cheers erupted from every station. On the main screen, they watched as the remaining swarm ships turned and fled, their perfect formations shattered. "We've never seen this before." Admiral Kor's voice came through the comm. "The swarm has never retreated." Jack smiled tiredly. They've never faced humans before. 1 month later, Captain Jack stood once again in the council chamber. This time, he wasn't asking for help, but receiving the Alliance's highest honor. Admiral Kor placed a gleaming medal on Jack's chest. "For exceptional bravery and innovation in the face of our greatest threat, the Alliance names you, Captain Jack Reed, a hero of all worlds." Jack nodded his thanks, then looked out at the gathered officials. Anna, Mike, and Emma stood in the front row, each wearing similar medals. "The honor belongs to all humans," Jack said. "We came to you as newcomers, asking for help. You gave us scrap." He smiled. "We gave you a revolution." Admiral Kor returned the smile. "A lesson we needed to learn. The Alliance had grown too comfortable, too set in our ways. You reminded us that adaptation is the key to survival." Later, as Jack stood on an observation deck watching ships come and go from the station, Admiral Kor joined him. "The Council has approved a new class of vessels," he said. "Adaptive response ships, designed with both Alliance technology and human ingenuity. The first will be commissioned next month." "What will you call them?" Jack asked. Kor's yellow eyes glinted with humor. "Officially, they're the Phoenix class. Unofficially, everyone is already calling them Scrappers." Jack laughed. "I like that. The first will be yours to command, if you wish," Kor continued. "The Council believes that human captains may be best suited for these unconventional ships." Jack looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was licking its wounds, perhaps already adapting to the tactics that had defeated them. The war wasn't over. It had barely begun. But now, for the first time, they had a real chance to win it. "I accept," he said. Core nodded. The ship is already being built. The finest materials, the best technology the Alliance can provide. No scrap this time? Jack asked with a smile. No, Core admitted. We've learned that lesson. Though I wonder, what? Would you have done as well with a perfect ship, or was it the challenge that brought out the best in you? Jack thought about the Defiant, with its patchwork hull and jury-rigged systems. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't elegant, but it had saved 2 civilizations. Give us the best you've got, he said. We'll make it better. Core laughed. I believe you will, Captain. I believe you will.